Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today I am really excited to introduce to you Larry Ludwig from LarryLudwig.com. He is somebody that has been in the business for decades, really at this point, in the internet space. Early on, web development, web hosting, that sort of thing, but quickly moved after a few years to building his own blog. And that blog that he built was InvestorJunkie.com. We're going to dive into that, how he built that site to a huge seven-figure exit. In 2018, he sold InvestorJunkie for $6 million. A huge amount, a life-changing amount of money. And I want to get into the weeds how he built that site. And so we do just that. We jump into his keyword research, his content strategies, user intent, why that's so important with Google, the type of team that he hired to build the business, and the traffic levels that the site eventually achieved. But beyond that, something that Larry is really an expert in is affiliate tracking where your conversions are coming from and understanding at a granular level which pages are making you the most money and where people are clicking on your site. And so we talk about some of those strategies for how to get set up to start tracking your affiliate conversions a little bit better and a whole lot more. And so I hope you enjoyed the interview as we talk about blogging, SEO, business, and a little bit of retirement and what that means and whether or not Larry would ever retire after having such an exit. So with that, here's Larry. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Hey, Larry, welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast.
Thank you, Spencer, for having me.
Yeah, it is great to connect. We had a mutual friend introduce us, Tom Drake. Shout out to him. I appreciate that very much. And as I looked into some of your experience and what you've done, I really wanted to be able to have you on the show just to share your expertise, your knowledge as it relates to SEO, building websites, and even exiting a business. And so I'd like to jump into that a little bit. But first, for people that are not familiar with you, why don't you just give us a 1 or 2 minute kind of introduction into your professional background?
Sure. I mean, I've been developing websites since 1994. So I'm one of the OGs in the OGs category. So I've been developing websites for a very long time, not for myself necessarily. At the time I started developing I worked for an ad agency called Poppy Tyson and started developing websites, some of the very first websites in some cases, for very big corporate brands because they were just realized the capability at the time of the internet. And again, that was really at the early stages where most businesses were looking at it just purely to, get it online, get a presence of some sort and not do anything transactional or commerce wise. So I was there from the very beginning. And I guess from that, realized that I wanted to always own my own business. And in late 1999, decided to venture off onto my own business. And that was a web hosting, web development business. Mm-hmm. And did that for about 10 years. Or even actually technically after that. But after about 2009, kind of got bored with what I was dealing with and just the stressors of a web hosting, web development business. It was really just not a good business.
Yeah.
And realized that I wanted to, why can't I do it for myself, right? Why can't I monetize a blog and create one and do it for others? Instead of doing it for others, I should say, do it for myself. And that's kind of where the blog Investor Junkie came about in 2009. And built it to where it was zero traffic to, I think over 300,000 unique visitors every month, and sold it in 2018.
Yeah. So I want to jump into Investor Junkie. So you kind of explained part of the reason why you created it. You decided, hey, I want to be building my own blog instead of just servicing other web owners, webmasters. I wanted to be the webmaster, making all the money. But why did you go into the investing niche?
I had always an interest in investing in personal finance. Ever since college, I was sitting there using Quicken, personal finance app, in my college days. And, a lot of my friends were looking at me with cross-eyed, like, what are you doing? We're still in college. Why are you worrying about money at this stage? And so I guess I always had a fascination. I guess one of my core driving factors was making sure I didn't have the same issues my parents had in terms of finance. And looked at in 2009 that, well, why don't I just mix the two interests I have together? I obviously have a great passion for technology, but also have an interest in personal finance. And looked at what was in the landscape at the time. There were a lot of personal finance blogs or blogs about getting out of debt, but not necessarily investing. So I looked at it as an opportunity and kind of went, along that path. On top of, I didn't really see any blog that really spoke to me at that point. I was past the basics of, the baby steps of Dave Ramsey, the basics of how to do, getting out of debt. I had, a sizable nest egg at that time. So I was kind of thinking about, well, okay, there's got to be others also that have the same issues I'm having. Where can I find a blog that speaks at a more of a basic level than just discussing the advanced topics? I mean, granted, I could discuss those as well, but I wanted to really talk to everyone in a common language and not try to complicate investing. And that's kind of how InvestorJunkie was born.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You found a need in the market, and usually that's what I found is that a personal need, like a problem that I find in my own life or business, like that ends up being like a good idea. It's just it's something you have intimate knowledge with. You were in the space where, hey, doesn't appear to be a lot of people writing about investing. So you went into that niche and clearly it's paid off. So you said at its peak or close to its peak, it was about 300,000 visitors a month. Is that right? Traffic wise?
Yeah, definitely. I think it probably was a little over that, but let's just say 3,000 a month. 300,000.
300,000 a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
And primarily SEO?
About 90% of it. At the time of my exit, I was starting to do paid traffic and trying to really ramp up that also. But let's say about 10% of it was paid.
Okay. So I want to jump into the SEO strategy, right? 90% of the traffic roughly is coming from organic sources. Mm-hmm. How did you do it? Well, like, what's the primary SEO strategy? Somebody, particularly, somebody that's starting and looking at, hey, I want to build a large website. Like, how do I think about SEO?
Well, I mean, SEO, I think one of the things that we can definitely talk about is intent. Intent is a huge factor in SEO, especially this day and age. It's even more so than ever. But also, I think realize people go out and use search for solving a problem. I think that's even a grander purpose of why SEO and why search engines exist is they're trying to solve their problem. So I think you have to look at the keywords you go after, the pages and documents you create on your site, and think about solving those problems. So I think all of it comes down to another grand topic is user experience, making sure you solve their problems through your website. And it's more than just purely content. I mean, I've always been more than just writing good content. I think that's important, but I don't think that's the only factor this day and age because content ultimately is a commodity. And I think you need to add more functionality, features to your site than just purely, writing 3,001 words where the competition is writing 3,000 words. Everyone else is doing the same thing. You're going to get the same, homogenized results. So I think in the end, it's really about the two, intent and just making sure you solve the user's problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so let's dive deeper into intent a little bit. Do you think about each article as an individual sort of entity, or are you trying, and I guess this skews a little bit away from intent, but talking about topical authority as well, like, do you try and like group, if you're going to write about a specific investing strategy, do you write a group of 10 or 15 articles all about the same thing to sort of show Google that, hey, you're an authority on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both because obviously an article can be a landing page or an entry page into your brand in itself. But to Google, that is, you want to make sure you really are domain authority. You have some expertise in that said space. You can't just write one article on cryptocurrencies, let's say, and all of a sudden Google's going to rank you for that said article. It just doesn't work like that. So I looked at SEO as kind of divide and conquer. As you really set out to really go into the depth of the said topic and cover all the different aspects of it, and then go on to another category, and not instead of going really wide. I mean, a common issue I've seen with many my own clients, for that matter, is a lot of them go into the broad categories. They'll cover X, Y, and Z topics and not really go deep on one said topic first, and then cover the next one, and then cover the next one. And I think that hurts their overall ranking in Google. And Google kind of doesn't know what you're about or what you're trying to stand for. So they kind of then overall hurt your overall rankings. So that's kind of one of the things I would suggest if anyone's just starting out is really how to make sure you cover one topic and go really deep on that topic first before you go off and covering every other thing. I mean, you may have bigger goals and bigger plans to do so, but just don't do it right away.
Right. So how do you go about finding topics to write about, keyword research strategies and understanding the intent, knowing exactly how to write that article once you've found sort of keywords?
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, the tools that are around today didn't exist. So we definitely have some advantage and disadvantage because everyone else and their brother has the same tools as well.
Very true.
But I guess if I was starting today, to me, Ahrefs is an obvious choice. You do keyword research in that tool. Although I've found some of the Ahrefs search capabilities kind of limited or doesn't have the results I'm liking, where I've been using now as of late. Also, KW Finder,
okay,
which is a competitor to that tool, on top of using Surfer SEO as well. And really, that combining all those tools together, I think, really saves me time instead of going out where previously with Surfer SEO, you'd have to literally go into an article, go on to do research, technical analysis, or technical SEO, and literally go to every article ranking for said keyword and figure out how many keywords, how many words they have in an article, what topics are they mentioning or not mentioning, and really making sure you cover all those aspects in your article, where Surfer does it for you and saves so much time in my eyes.
Right. And so about how many articles did you end up having on InvestorJunkie, if just roughly?
About 1,000, I think it was at the end. I mean, they probably have more now with the new owners.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, believe it or not, and this is something that, I mean, you're probably aware of this, but a lot of people just starting out aren't. It's a lot of it was updating existing content.
Yeah.
It was really, I would say 80% of it was updating content, improving that said article, or just updating the review, let's say, and making sure that we're kept current. To me, that was a huge factor, is the whole recency, making sure the content was, updated, accurate, where someone, to me, nothing's worse than going to a web page, reading that article on a review of a product when by just reading other articles, it's not the most up-to-date article. To me, that just hurts the user experience. So it goes back to that user experience issue. And so I was really meticulous on that, making sure we were constantly updating products and pages to make sure we were accurate as much as possible. If ideally that same day. So if Betterment, for example, came out with a new feature, I wanted to make sure we had it that same day on a review.
Wow. And so how did you manage all that content, all that updating? Did you have a large team? Give us an idea of who was all involved.
So I had really one editor, and I had a lot of contract writers, and it was myself as well. So it was really a skeleton crew in that sense.
How much is a lot of freelance writers?
I think at the peak, I want to say 10 or 12. I forget the exact amount.
Okay. And so sort of at the peak, were you more just assigning, you weren't writing the content yourself?
No, mostly I was managing editor. I mean, really for just telling my editor the day-to-day, making sure we cover these topics, make sure we plan out the editorial calendar, making sure we would go update existing articles, stuff like that. I was more doing, if anything, the technical behind the scenes, making sure we were developing a system to make it easier to manage these articles and update them and manage the products themselves. Because that was a huge issue a common issue with you get a product review site is you have, a pricing of a said product on one page. You got to make sure you update it in all the other pages. And that was something I made sure we put into a database and used WordPress to that advantage. So we really developed a lot of systems to make it easier to manage and update that content, as opposed to, again, commonly with most WordPress blogs is you have to update it in 10 different places, and it just takes a lot of time and it's error prone. So.
Yeah. And I know related to that, another thing that you're well known for is really tracking your affiliate commissions, kind of knowing where, the clicks are coming from, what's converting, what pages are actually driving the revenue. Can you talk to that a little bit about, what you built and what you do that works to track those affiliate commissions?
Yeah, I'm all about 1% incremental improvements over time. To me, that can be huge gains, and especially in affiliate marketing, if you get the traffic. Obviously, if you're just starting out, to me, you should be just worrying about getting the basic level of income and getting the site going. Where I was with the business wise, when you start getting 5-6 figures a month in income, let's say, you want to make sure you're optimizing your site. And you want to make sure, in the end, it's not just purely optimizing for revenue. It's optimizing to make sure it's the best user experience. You want to make sure everyone in that transaction's happy. If you're an affiliate marketer, you want to make sure the merchant's happy, the visitor's happy, and of course, you're happy. That, to me, you can develop a site like that and be very effective at it. And to me, using tracking allowed me to do that. Whereas most people, You get a monthly report saying they have 5 conversions from said merchant, but have no idea where on their site that those conversions
You
are
might have
coming
mentioned that in 20 different pages and don't know which ones are actually converting, right?
Yeah, and it's just crazy in my eyes, especially if you're doing paid traffic. If you're starting to do paid traffic any means, you want to know where your pages are converting. In some cases, it may not be obvious. Where you may have a best of, let's say, listing of a listicle of 10 best products to review and mention, and then link out to your reviews of those as well. Sometimes people would convert on the review page and not on the first page. So you've got to give them options and not just purely, limit yourself to just having a listicle of 10 affiliate links, because people don't necessarily convert on that first page.
Right. So how do you do that? I mean, how do you track those commissions?
There's different tools. I use ClickMeter in my case. There are other tools as well out there that at least for mine, it's ClickMeter's to me, at least, the best horse in the glue factory. The best way to look at it is, while they're not perfect, I've extended their services to really make it much more automated, much more manageable, but it does serve the purpose. It's one of the things I look at is APIs. Do they have ability to extend their service? And to me, I glue a bunch of different services together to get the analytics and get the conversion tracking that I needed. And with ClickMeter, it just seems to be the best option out there. I mean, I'm looking at perhaps at some point also offering or implementing ClickMagic as well. But right now they don't have an API. So that just makes it a non-starter.
Right.
But services like Pretty Links, for example, that most people use, it can't do any of that. So you're just getting a click tracking report, which is, again, fine for that first level of affiliate marketing. But when you start getting to, again, 5-6 figures a month, you want to know where your conversions are happening. And that's kind of where more of the advanced tools come into play.
Yeah. So ClickMeter, I know it works on like affiliate networks like Commission Junction, Impact Radius, I think, and some of these other networks. You can sort of sync up your account, right? But what about like third-party affiliate programs, like like on Niche Pursuits? Like, I'm an affiliate for a lot of just individual software tools like Jungle Scout or Helium 10, right? And they have their own affiliate program. They're not on a network.
It's a mix, especially it's interesting in digital marketing. You're laughing because in digital marketing, it's the plumber's plumbing, it seems like, in this space, which I find fascinating, because you'd think in digital marketing, you would have things like the ability to do a sub ID or pass that data from an affiliate and get conversion tracking. But in some cases, they may not even offer that, or it's some homegrown, built system that doesn't have any other than a monthly report through some UTM code. And it's just crazy in my eyes that you'd think they would want to get more advanced than that. So it depends on the system. I guess ClickMeter out of the box has some basic level, postbacks, but at least for me, I've been implementing everything through APIs. To me, APIs have much more data, have much more reliability, and have data such as, instead of getting, when you get the postback, you get the actual conversion date, which matters more for, when you start really looking at what day did you get that conversion? What day did you do the ad spend and stuff like that? So you can really get down to that level of detail. On top of the APIs offer stuff, in some cases, even email or full contact information of the person who ordered. So therefore you want to be able to then, you could possibly remarket to that person as well, or even send them a bonus. I mean, if you're doing something where you're saying, we'll give you a bonus. My example, I use Bluehost, right? I actually have them, they're on my mailing list. I'll get a conversion back from Bluehost, and I'll actually subscribe them to my course automatically. And there's nothing I need to do on my side. So it makes my side from affiliate marketing much easier, and treats it as, my goal with affiliate marketing always has been treating it as if it was our own product, and making sure we have the same conversion metrics, the same availabilities as if it was your own product. And I think most people don't think affiliate marketing that way. Yeah,
no, I don't myself, and maybe I should. So I want to dive deeper into that. So you mentioned Bluehost. Somebody signs up to Bluehost, through your affiliate link. You register them for your free course. How does that work? From the user perspective, they maybe came to your website once. They clicked on an affiliate link, signed up for Bluehost, and then they just get an email. And do you just kind of, what is the welcome process like?
Depends on, most cases you have to gate it with an email sign up first, right? You can't just, it depends on the affiliate system. ThriveCart, for example, does offer the email of the person who signed up. So first and foremost, it depends on the affiliate system the merchant is using. If they're using a system that gives it the email, obviously you should grant permission or say, hey, we're going to send them out an email as a bonus, let's make sure you're aware of this than just purely doing it. You can't sign up people to a mailing list without them recognizing that they're going to get on a list. So that's first and foremost. You have to be transparent. Second is, again, usually I require people to sign up to a mailing list on my side first. It's just the easiest way to guarantee a tracking and guarantee you can get them on, say, a membership area or course after they sign up. But you can have that full data. That's the level of detail you can get in conversion tracking than just purely, to me, the one and done is most, the affiliate marketing for most people is they have one click and one conversion and they're done with that person. Whereas to me, you should be building more relationship. Again, going back to as if it's your own product.
Yeah, I agree. And I know a lot of my listeners, they're affiliates on Amazon Associates, right? And you just don't get any data at all, really.
I consider it their affiliate of last resort. I know that I get a lot of flack when I say that, but it's just, while the conversion rates can be pretty good, the payouts are low, the conversion tracking is non-existent, and the cookie is very limited. So at minimum, what I would recommend for anyone who is using Amazon for their affiliate marketing is at least test at some level alternatives and see what happens. Do A/B testing and see which one works better. In some cases, you might be surprised. Amazon may do really poorly because a lot of people with Amazon is they go to the Amazon site and they literally get lost in that site and never come back.
Right.
Or they don't buy the product that you told them to buy or recommended to buy. So therefore, they'll buy something else. Where, if you send them to a product page for some merchant, it could be literally a dedicated page that's the only thing they can buy. Either they buy or bounce. And that might be a better user experience. So you have to try that out.
Yeah, I agree. It's always worth testing, seeing what converts better. And at the end of the day, it makes you more money. So when you were building InvestorJunkie, did you bootstrap at all in terms of, you use the revenue from the site to hire more writers, or did you put a lot of your own money in before it was profitable?
I'm trying to remember now. I had the existing web hosting, web development business. So that was a business into itself. And I already had some infrastructure from that and used it for InvestorJunkie. Initially, I created InvestorJunkie as well as kind of a showcase. Hey, here's what we can do to scale a WordPress blog.
Okay.
And here's the way we can scale it and load balance and all those things. And obviously, it turned out to be much more of a business into itself.
Yeah.
But I guess outside of that, there was some of that bootstrapping in that sense. But really, I grew it as the business grew. And initially, I wasn't sure myself when I started whether or not it was really possible, even though I heard of other bloggers. The example I always use is Bankaholic, right? Bankaholic sold in,
I remember that one,
2008. I want to say for 12 million unofficially. I think it was a little less in the end, but let's just say 12 million. So I realized the guy was just one person operation. So I knew the opportunity was there, but I guess I didn't necessarily believe it at the time when I first started. So it was kind of, even though I had some affiliate marketing experience even beforehand with my hosting business. So it took me a while to really, get into the groove and get it. I always say it took me about a year to two, almost 2 years before I finally got in that groove and realized this was a real business. And then therefore hired, additional staff to help me along the way.
Yeah. What was kind of that point where you realized, hey, it's a real business? Was it a revenue amount, it's making a certain amount, or was it like a traffic amount? You felt like, hey, this has got traction.
Yeah, it was a revenue amount. It was with a stockbroker called Trade King at the time.
Okay.
Trade King.
Oh yeah. I think I
had a special promotion in August, I want to say, of 2009 or 10. I forget which year it was, but one I did like a little over 10,000 in that month with them alone.
Just with them. Wow.
Yeah, just with them. And I kind of realized that was just an opportunity. I knew that then from there on, this is definitely a possibility. And it was just a promotion. It was actually not even a review. It was literally just promoting their service and saying they had a special deal for, I forget what it was. I think $50, cash when you signed up or something like that.
And how did you do that promotion? Was it just a blog post? Did you have an email list at that point?
I had a little mailing list. I did that partially, but it was mostly through SEO.
Yeah. Okay. Just wrote up a promotional post and it clearly worked. So what other sort of on-page SEO strategies did you employ then and feel like work really well now that people should be focusing on?
Well, the thing that a lot of people find fascinating is I didn't do any really backlink outreach initially. For the first, I think I started outreach only in 2016. And so it's, good 5 years into it. That's not to say I didn't ask every so often for a backlink here and there, but I never really proactively, did a whole campaign. A lot of my focus was on what we could control, and that was the whole user experience and making sure we can control the backlinks, the way we set up the pages, the review, and really focused on how good we can make. Our goal is to make our reviews better than the competition and add more information, add value where others weren't. So that was really the primary focus, believe it or not. It was not about getting backlinks. And at this day and age, if anything, it's shown more and more, you can have a somewhat moderate, moderately backlink profile and have really good ratings just because you're considered the expert in that said topic. I mean, nowadays backlinks, while are important, are not as important as previous, and becoming less and less so. So it's definitely something, it's important, but it's not as important as it has been. I mean, if anything, a product like yours with backlinks, links within your own site are becoming more and more important.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how Google is evolving, right? It seems like they're understanding the English language or any language better and better, and they can, not perfectly, they're still a machine, right? But they're getting better. They can understand that, hey, this has better topic coverage, this article, right? They're mentioning all these words that we know should be closely related and doing other things that I don't understand.
I mean, keyword stuff. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing that's funny, a lot of people years ago when I first started, especially, was you were able to do, literally repeat this word 10,000 times at the footer of the page in light text, and you were guaranteed to be ranked. This is even before Google in some cases, that you were guaranteed to be ranked high on that, said topic. And, again, you can't even, I find it fascinating. I still see SEO people recommending, well, you got to match up the keyword to be exact. And it's not really about that this day and age. It's much more with NLP and BERT. It's really much more about just being, natural, writing good content, like you said, making sure you cover those said topics that Google is kind of expecting. So you want to make sure, because the competition already has, ranking on that said topic. If you're not covering, let's say, what's the pricing for a review of the said product, you got to make sure you cover that pricing in your review as well, because Google's saying that's an important factor.
Right. So it sounds like Surfer SEO is one of your go-to tools for that. Yep. Do you always kind of just make your article longer? Like, how important do you feel article length is?
Well, you got to be within the bell curve. If you're looking at the competition, again, using Surfer SEO, if they're saying on average the top 10 or even higher, top say 48 or around 2,000 words, right? And you only have 1,000, that's clearly a case where you're missing content. Right. I mean, that's not to say with any tool like Surfer, you have to have exactly 2,000 words or else you're not going to rank. That's not the case. You might be able to write effectively, but it's telling you at least some cues of, all right, you didn't cover these topics. You didn't have this amount of words because yours is clearly much less. You didn't have these, H2 tags in your content as much as the competition, and even backlinks to a degree as well. So you got to make sure Google's telling you, and again, Surfer is helping you speed up that process, what keywords or topics you're perhaps missing, and use those cues to say, oh, I got to make sure I include those as well. And so it's not really necessarily a word count or any hardened metric to say, well, you didn't mention that keyword, you got to mention it 8 times like Surfer mentions, or else you're not going to rank. It doesn't work like that.
Right. It's more of a sort of guesstimate, right? A general guideline of
guideline is a better way to look at it.
I like how you put it within the bell curve there, right? Like if everybody's writing a 3,000 word article and you're coming in at 1,000 words, like it's clearly, you're clearly.
Well, this is all, if you really look at everything at Google, and I use this analogy as well. I mean, even stuff that we start getting to EAT, expertise, authority and trust, especially in your money or your life, what I was dealing with investing in personal finance, right? You got to make sure you're on mark on the sentiment. Google really looks closely at sentiment nowadays. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're writing a review on or discussion about 401k plans, and you're saying 401k plans are the worst thing in the world. You hate them. They're absolutely horrible. For Google to rank you is going to be pretty unlikely, because of the sentiment out there for 401k plans is they're by very nature good. Right. So Google's going to say, well, this person over here is writing a bad, article. It's not really a good 401k article. We're not going to rank them, even though it might be to you good content and some valid arguments. The likelihood of you ranking for, what is a 401k plan are almost zero.
Right.
So you got to really look at sentiment as well and making sure you're in the bell curve of what the expected results of that topic are as well. And that's a good thing, but also can be a bad thing in search, which is a whole other topic into itself. I mean, same thing with COVID recipes or COVID solution, how to solve COVID or how to get better from COVID. Google's kind of looking really closely at that content because of, again, it's an important topic. So for you to write some miracle cure about COVID, the chances of you ranking are zero.
Right. That's true. And that's what's important to look at. Google's, like we say, kind of getting smarter with the machine learning. It's fascinating because we can always look at the first page of Google and kind of understand, hey, this is the type of stuff they're already ranking. And I know you mentioned this a little bit, but can we make it a little bit better than what's already there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe take some of the same sentiment. We got some other guidelines on maybe this is how in depth the article needs to be, but what fresh ideas can we bring to the table?
Yeah, the analogy I've always been using is you don't have to outrun the bear, Google. You have to outrun your competition. And that's really what search, SEO has been always about, is you're making sure your content is better than your competition. And it's not purely content itself either. That goes back to the whole idea of functionality. To me, functionality is becoming more and more of a moat that you can protect your business than purely writing content. Because again, everyone can easily see what you wrote and then copy that content. It's a little harder if you write a comparison app, let's say, to compare, like I did. I created a whole Betterment, all the robo-advisors, and literally say, here's the different robo-advisors, how they compare, and allow you to rank them on your desires, what you're considered an important metric. And that was something, again, no one else really had at the time in that space, where, again, anyone can write an article on Betterment Review and really write a good article and detailed and cover it in every aspect.
Right. So you mentioned that you didn't do a lot of link building early on. You started to do a little bit more, it sounds like maybe the last couple of years. Do you feel like that really helped out a lot, or it's just a matter of sort of getting your name out there even more than it already was?
Yeah, I mean, kind of where I was at is the business wise. I actually, originally I did all the SEO in-house and did it myself. And then I came to a time where I was like, okay, I want to hire a firm that had the same beliefs in SEO and hire them to actually do a lot of this work for me. And part of it was the outreach program. So it was initially not, part of it was just time constraints really. But the other is, again, I looked at what could I control directly? What had the biggest bang for my buck? As an entrepreneur, you got to look at where, what's the best time you can spend on something. And my case was, I felt like the user experience was more important because we could, again, control it and make it better than what was out there currently.
Right. And so you've talked a lot about sort of user experience. Is there any sort of broad strokes or thoughts that you can give on that? I mean, is that focusing just on site speed and sort of, making sure everything is green in Google Search Console?
I mean, I would say the best thing to do, right, is that most people don't use a service like Crazy Egg. And right. Crazy Egg, although it's a paid tool, there's now in Microsoft that could do it for free. There's a Clarity, I think it's called, that's okay. So don't be, deterred that you may not have a budget to buy a Crazy Egg. You can easily do it, but you should be able to get a heat map on a page and really look at where the user's falling off. What buttons are they clicking on or not clicking on? In some cases, you'll find that they're clicking on certain things on your page that you don't want them to click on, or maybe it's a cue for you to say, maybe we should add a link there or add a topic there or add more content there because people are really engaged in that part of the page. So you really have to let the users tell you what's important or not. Because in the end, you may have some good ideas on what a user experience should be for a page. But in the end, what you may think and what the users tell you are completely off. In a lot of cases, it is. So in the end, I always say, let the data tell you what to do.
Yeah. And it sounds like, that's probably how you optimize your site so much. 300,000 visitors a month is a lot, obviously, but it's not like huge traffic numbers, right? No. We hear of sites making millions of visitors a month, that sort of thing. But I know in the investor space, the value per visitor can be extremely high, right? Because they're opening up investment accounts or other things that have a high payout.
Well, I mean, to me, and that's where affiliate marketing really, I think, lends itself very well compared to other means to monetize, like CP. Most blogs or most sites are CPC based, cost per click.
Right.
And the problem is, it's all based on then a pure numbers game of we need to get more visitors to convert better or get more traffic and therefore get more money. Where affiliate marketing rewards you for the quality of that traffic, because you don't get paid unless they convert. So there's no point in sending a person to a service that is just, there's no way they're going to convert. I mean, a good example with say Personal Capital, one of the services I worked with, they had a requirement of $100,000 minimum, not deposit, but like to set up and have linked up accounts with that amount of money, or else you didn't get any commission at all. So therefore, you have to make sure you send the right people to that said service. It's not about purely, getting the most people, most eyeballs in front of that product. It's about sending the right person to the right product. So quality much more wins out in affiliate marketing than quantity. And to me, that's always been my mantra as well, is really, again, making sure the three people in that transaction are the most happy, they're really happy. Otherwise, you really lose in affiliate marketing. And again, that's the merchant, the visitor, or you.
Right. So any other sort of blogging tips that you have to share, either SEO wise or otherwise, that people that either have an existing blog are trying to squeeze a little bit of more money out of, or trying to get more traffic? Any other thoughts there?
Again, going back to what we just talked about, again, look at your traffic and really make sure you track where the clicks and or conversions are coming from. And if you're not, to me, that's usually a huge opportunity, especially when you start getting to higher income levels. If you're not doing it, and again, it seems like most affiliate marketers aren't, that to me is an easy win in my eyes, because you can look at, you'll be surprised. You may think that conversions are happening on one page, but in fact, they may be entering on this page, but they're converting on a totally different page. And that to me is a critical factor. Is you want to know where are they eventually converting, because it may not be the first touch even. It may literally be 6-7 times they come to your site and they finally convert after clicking on a link in an email that you mentioned that said product. You'd be surprised. It's something that most analytic tools don't really have that level of detail. And that's something that, again, I consider going back to treating it as if it's your own product. The same things required in your own product is you need multiple touch points before someone converts.
Right. So it sounds like an entry level point is maybe people can start with ClickMeter to start getting a little bit better data. If they can get access to APIs and actually build better sort of in-house tracking, that's even better. But that's a whole rabbit hole, I guess, that as people dive into, there's a lot of technical aspects too that can take a while to figure out.
I'm not going to pitch it. I do offer software to help assist with ClickMeter and make all that stuff easy for everyone. So literally you just insert an affiliate link and it does the whole tracking for you. But in the end, you could do it yourself. There's third-party services as well that do at some level the same thing I'm offering. So I'm not the only one out there, but in the end, you want that level of detail, because without that stuff, you're flying blind. It's no different than flying an aircraft without radar, without sonar, and having no idea where you're going.
So if people want to check out, your tool that you have available for affiliate tracking, where should they go?
They can go to LarryLudwig.com. So if you go to LarryLudwig.com, I have information on the site.
Okay. Sounds good. So in 2018, you mentioned you sold InvestorJunkie. I don't think we mentioned the figure. How much did you sell it for, and why did you sell it?
I sold it for $6 million. We didn't mention it.
Congrats.
Why did I sell it? The question was, I think I achieved everything I wanted to do at the time, and realized that if I wanted to be a bigger business than what it was at the time, it would have had to been a much different business, both in terms of staff, but also really business-wise. I think at the time, I really maximized what we could do in affiliate marketing. And, to me, I looked at, okay, do I lock in my gains and sell to a prospective buyer that was really interested in my brand and we're going to keep it? Or do I keep doing what I do and maybe look at, because usually buying sprees like this happen in waves, and it's usually every 5 to 10 years. And I was like, do I want to wait another 5 to 10 years before that next round of buying spree happens in the space? And I'm like, I think it's time to sell. I think I solved all the problems I wanted to solve in this market and wanted to move on. And that's kind of really the end of it. It was nothing, I wasn't burnt out. I was really happy with what the business and what we achieved. But in the end, as an entrepreneur, it's like you're just looking at, okay, I think I again, in order to be the next level of business, it was going to be a business I didn't really necessarily want to be.
Are you able to share who you sold the business to?
Yes, we can discuss. It's WebPals is a company. They're Israeli based.
Okay.
They have multiple other brands. They own brands like Dough Roller, Money Under 30. They own a few other sites, Greedy Rates, which is a Canadian credit card compare site. So they offer, and they have a lot of other sites as well outside of the personal finance as well. I think they have, I want to say, around 100 different domain names they own.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so did they approach you? How did that come about?
Um, that was interesting. I mean, so I wasn't actively looking to sell, and they contacted me, and this is after a FinCon meetup with another merchant at that. So I met through a dinner party of that said merchant. I'm not going to name the merchant because of they're a little annoyed that they sold, but in the end, what I can say is so we met up through this party, and one thing led to another, and they were interested in inquiring my site.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's huge. I mean, to be able to have a $6 million exit, obviously that's a huge amount of money, life-changing amount of money. Did you take a break after that? Did you sort of
a little
go on a
bit?
vacation or something?
Well, I did reward myself. I mean, that's the classic entrepreneur. You have to do something, right?
Sure.
And have an exit like that. And I bought a Porsche 911.
All right.
Something I always wanted. I mean, so I did that. But outside of that, no, it kind of took it easy. I mean, I had commitments for, within a certain time frame after that. And just in the end, I started another business, another personal brand, in my case, my own domain name, but didn't really, been now after 3 years into it almost, starting to build that up. But, really, yeah, I didn't outright take a vacation because I guess it's one of those things like the classic of, to me, retirement in the traditional sense, right? Is you just sit there and, play golf all day is to me boring. You have to, I think, keep engaged at some level. So now, I've always wanted to help other entrepreneurs as well. So that's kind of what I did, and built up my own personal brand to do that.
Yeah, that was going to be my question is, after you get a large amount of money like that you could live off for the rest of your life, why keep working? And, you touched on that a little bit.
You have to. I mean, you have to have some internal, and we've mentioned this even before the call, is, I looked at the example of the, Apollo moon landers, the astronauts who landed on the moon. They had this huge goal of, getting to the moon. And once they did it, they're like, okay, what's next? What's the next thing? Because this is a huge milestone. Right. And I guess as an entrepreneur, you have to look at that next milestone, the next goal, to keep yourself ultimately happy. I think you have to have some goal to kind of achieve. And it doesn't have to be some grandiose goal even, just something to say, I'm going to do this. This is my next mission in life. And, I think people like that in their careers. They want to have some, they want to feel like they're doing good in the world.
Right. Yeah. There's been a lot of studies on happiness, and one of the core themes is having goals and striving to achieve something, and usually something bigger than yourself. Right. Yep. And so being able to have that, I agree. The traditional idea of retirement and, reading books or going on walks all day, like, it could get old pretty quick.
Unfortunately, I've seen many people who have done the traditional retirement literally die months later. It's sad, but that sad. To me, and I think even retire in Latin means death, I want to say, or something like that. I've heard that somewhere. It's kind of scary in the sense of if you want to have some sort of goal where, again, I've seen many people have that traditional 9-to-5 job. They work, get that gold watch in their pension plan and then die off, months later. And it's sad. You don't want to do that. You want to have something, again, it's like you said, bigger than you, and have, just because I sold a business for a nice, 7-figure sum, which is great, don't get me wrong. You have to have something more than that. I think you have to have other missions than just purely that. It's, again, something that ironically, you want to make sure it's not the Apollo moon lander, astronauts having that ultimate goal of landing on the moon. You want to have you've sold that business. So it's like, okay, now what? You want to have something else outside of that.
Right. Absolutely. So you started LarryLudwig.com. How's that going?
Doing good. I mean, to me, again, it goes back to the mission we were just discussing. Is again helping other entrepreneurs. I think a lot of small and large businesses just don't effectively monetize online. And again, what better, since I've been doing this for so many years, what better thing to offer is help other entrepreneurs with their businesses.
Yeah. And so I know you've got, I think 3 courses on your site there. What are they and who are they for?
So I have 3. There's one, it's a free course for getting started, as a blogger. The next is I have an SEO course, and it's really geared towards writers. I mean, the thing that a lot of people in SEO or people with a writing background get fearful of SEO, it's really technical, and really developed a course that doesn't get into the technical aspects of SEO. It really looks at it from their point of view. So I developed that course, which is working out well. And then on top of that, the whole idea of, okay, you have a blog, you're established at some level, but you're not really full-time. Your goal is to get full-time, hence the name of the course is Full-Time Blogger. And that really helps them, really I teach the foundations of how to start from a very base level of, where you are currently to, again, how to do tracking, how to do, better optimization of your blog, and really how to grow that business into a full-time business and then some.
Mm-hmm. So that SEO course for writers, would that be something good that I could just send my authors to? Like, hey, if I want to train you on how to do SEO writing, just go read this course.
Of course. I mean, the thing, and I'm actually in the process of updating it too. I mean, but most of the stuff is timeless. It's not something, I mean, I'm trying to make sure when you write a course, and this is with any course creator in this space, especially in the digital marketing, is making sure it's not outdated, 2 months later, some new technique comes around. I mean, granted, you have new tools like Surfer SEO I'm going to be adding to the course. But in the end, the concepts are still the same. That's the beauty of, I think, SEO. A lot of the core concepts have really been around for about 10 years now. And if anything, Google's getting more and more so down that path. So things like intent, while when I first started, it did matter. It matters even more so this day and age.
Right. So, Larry, I want to thank you for coming on the Niche Pursuits podcast. It's been great being able to pick your brain, hear about your business, your growth, the exit, and everything else, your thoughts behind that. If people want to follow along with you or get in touch with you, where should they go?
Easiest place, LarryLudwig.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.